Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection week 190. I cannot believe we're already at 190. It's always a pleasure to connect with all of you, wherever you are in your day, and whether you're listening live or listening to the recording. It's great to have this opportunity to see you, those of you who are here, to connect with you. Always love to get your messages and your comments and just hear what's coming up for you. They've I don't know what it is about the comment section. Now all the private ones are coming in differently. So I apologize if I missed a comment that you made on another week. I have to try and set it up because this is the only one that this is my only meeting where it's doing this, and I don't know why. So, anyways, I want to jump into this week's topic because I it's such an important topic, and it's one that I actually have a little bit of like an obsession with, one that I'm very passionate about, and one that is just so important. We live in a time and just basically the topic of like, how do we know what we can believe? How do we know what's true? How do we know what we can trust? And I think this topic is especially important because we really live in a time where like it seems like every day there's a new scam, right? Like every day my husband's sending us messages like, be careful of this scam that's happening to people and be careful of that scam. Whether we're getting scams on our phone, like messages to try to get into our banks, whether you get, trying to access your credit cards, whether it's people trying to sell you things, whether it's, then we, all these things are happening, and then we start to doubt even the people around us, right? And I think what makes that even more of like a prevalent fear of like who can I trust and when can I trust and can I trust even the people closest to me? I think that that is only heightened from something we've talked so much about, which is our, very much the high expectations that we often come especially into marriage with. So when you come into marriage with very, very high expectations, right? Whether because you have an assumption of who your husband is, that's who people told you he was, that's how he presented himself, that's how you saw him, right? And then you get married and you don't see him in that same light. Very often, what happens is this feeling, women can have this feeling of almost feeling like gypped, feeling like lied to, feeling like I was manipulated, feeling like, right? Does this resonate with all of you? Let me know in the comments. Whether it's the people who gave me the shidduch, whether it's my husband himself, he pretended to be somebody else, whether it's, how can I trust people who didn't tell me what marriage was going to be like? And it can bring up a lot of feelings of distrust, not because, we could just easily have realized like, oh, maybe my expectations aren't in line with reality. But that's not what our brain does. Our brain goes, you're supposed to be this, and you're not. What else are you lying about? Or what else was I deceived about? Or, sometimes we get really into these days, women often have this fear of being taken advantage of, a fear of being manipulated, a fear of, am I being naive? I get these kinds of questions from women all the time. Is my husband taking advantage of me? How do I know if he's treating me in a way that's not okay? And not necessarily because anything is really so horrible, but because we have this fear of, am I safe? Am I really safe? Many of us grew up in situations where we were taught to be scared, where we were, we don't know what's safe. We don't know how to trust our own bodies. It can be very hard to trust people around us. Maybe we had experiences where, like, our friends weren't always so nice to us, right? I don't think anyone goes through adolescence without a little bit of like a fear of, do people really like me? Is this person really my friend, right? And so when you come into marriage, which is the most vulnerable experience, and you put it together with all of these expectations of what my relationship with my husband's going to be, of how close we're going to be, how connected we're going to be, how emotionally available he's going to be. You put that together with a physical relationship that you may not have felt prepared for, or that you didn't know what was expected of you, or that you don't you like it feels overwhelming for you. You put that together with a whole new life that maybe feels like, where do I fit in? What is going on? And then inside a world where things are like, what do we trust? Who do we trust? Do you see how it can be very confusing? It can be very difficult to know, is it safe to be loved? Is it safe to be supported? Is it safe to feel safe? Right? And I think what's really important to think about is how often, when we're getting upset, how often is it because really something happened that, was upsetting? But how often is it also because there's a part of us that's saying, what does this mean? Do you really love me? Do you care about me? Am I enough for you? Are you choosing me? What's going to happen? Right? The doubt that can creep in and cause us to question what could very well be innocent act or a mistake or even something with good intention or something that with somebody being tired or not their best self, and it becomes this like this evidence that I don't know if I can trust, evidence of you know untrustworthiness, evidence of am I really loved, right? And so how do we counter that? How do we deal with that? Is, really we have to, I think so much is that acknowledgement of the fact that we live with so much fear of trusting. And once we acknowledge that's there, we can really get curious. Okay, I'm spending a lot of time looking for evidence that I can't trust, right? We don't even necessarily realize that we're doing that. So that's why we're bringing awareness to this. We can bring awareness to, am I doubting? Am I looking for evidence that I can't trust? Am I seeing unmet expectations as evidence that my husband lied to me or that I'm not safe here? And we can choose to look for evidence that we are safe. Yes, there's going to be things that happen that we don't like. Yes, there's always going to be things that upset us. Yes, there's always going to be ways that our husbands don't fit into our expectations or our desires or the way we think things should be. That's because he's human. That's because we don't have the same background. We don't think the same way. We can't read each other's minds. We talk about that a lot, right? It, and together with that, we can look for the evidence. We can look for proof that we are loved. We can look for proof that it is safe. And I think that's a really important thing to look for evidence of in every area of our lives when we're doubtful, where we're like, wait, is this what I think it's going to be? I think this is something I've become very, very into because, back from when I first started to become a coach, I thought like, oh, I just need to learn how to be a coach. And then I can start coaching. I can have a coaching business. I can start coaching women. And what I didn't realize was that coaching was only going to be a fraction of what I would have to do because part of having a business is all the things that go along with business. I suddenly had to learn marketing. I suddenly had to learn how to speak to women about sales. I had to speak about all these like financial issues. I had to learn how to deal with different technical things. There was so much that went into it. And as I was learning a lot of these things, I saw how very easy it is. Because, as I had to learn these things, I also had to invest in the same, like in programs, in not besides for my coach who I trust with my life, right? To invest in learning these kinds of things. And what you start to realize is that there's a lot of stuff out there that promises a lot of results. And people can get very good at knowing how to say the things that are exactly what you need to hear, right? So they'll promise, I can teach you this and I can teach you that, and you'll learn this and you'll learn that. But how do you actually know once you jump in and invest the money and take the program, right? Is it actually going to give you those results? They can promise you the world, but do they actually, what's the word? Do they actually give it, right? What's the word I'm thinking of? Do they like they can promise or actually deliver, right? Do they actually deliver? And when I started noticing over the years and I became very, very interested in it and almost like a little bit very, very, very into it, this idea of listening behind the words. Like, yes, they're having all these ideas and trainings to show you, to kind of convince you of what your problems are and to tell you that they can solve your problems. But have they yet shown that they will solve your problem, or do you have to like first invest to see if it will make a difference? And very often it wouldn't. It would give me the information, but not really show me how to use it. And then I became very interested in this whole topic of how manipulative and how, kind of like untrustworthy it could be. Marketing could be how to talk about what you do and what you can deliver for people can be. And that's when I became also like very careful to make sure that I'm not just like doing all the like marketing stuff, because I don't want to just like say the things that will show you, oh yeah, like these are your problems. This is what you need to hear. What I think is very important is to actually allow you to see the difference it will make. Right? So, like I was saying before, when you're talking about your husband, it's not just, oh, just trust him. Oh, because he's your husband, you should trust him. But to look for evidence that you can trust him, to see and look to how you yourself can experience the ways that he is safe for you to lean into, right? To look for that evidence. And so that became how I also not, and again, that even this could be in a manipulative way. And that's why it's like, no, don't, like, just being real, just trying to show you and share with you what it is that I do and the tools that I teach and the ideas and the skills and the kind of coaching that I do. So you can already start to see for yourself, does this work for me? Does this work? So that then you can make the decision. Do I want to jump in for more? Is this something that will make a difference for my life? Yesterday I sent out an email saying that I realized that, and like this, I realized as I was preparing for today that, oh my gosh, people actually use it as a marketing strategy, as like, and it like can seem so fake. Like, oh, I accidentally left it up. So now I'm reopening it. But what actually happened was, with all the craziness over the last few weeks, I realized that there were certain places where the With All Your Heart sale of the Absolutely Feminine program was still available in some places. You could still access it. And some of the recording of what the program is was still up. So I sent out an email yesterday saying that I'm leaving it up for the next 48 hours. If anybody is on the fence, if anybody, kind of missed out, if you want to jump in, sometimes women have more time over the summer. They feel like it's a good opportunity for them to get started. Sometimes, or you may feel that your summer is especially hectic, in which case you may need these skills even more, especially module 1. Module 1 is like what we need to do in every stressful situation. And here's the thing, I don't want you to just take my word for it. That's why I have these podcasts. That's why we have the With All Your Heart series. That's why I really show you with full intention. I want you to experience for yourself the difference that these skills make. I want you to experience for yourself whether or not my voice is one that you want to be listening to, right? I would say you can have me in your pocket. Well, do you want me in your pocket, right? I want you to hear the way that I coach so that you can see if this is the type of vibe that works, if this is the type of approach that works. And then if you see, yes, I want to be able to do this, but I struggle to know how to apply these ideas. It's hard for me to figure out exactly how to put this into my life. That's when the coaching becomes very important. That's when it's time to invest in a coaching program, right? And the power of this coaching program is that basically you have me as your coach every week, right? Whether you come and you ask your question on the call, and then I'm answering your question, or whether you take the coaching as I say to, and even if it's not your question, you look to how does it apply to me? And I answer more than one question on each each week. So how did these questions apply to me? How does this issue show up in my life? Plus, you get your private calls throughout the year, which right now I'm offering 4 private calls throughout the year as part of this package. Then you're actually getting that practical advice as to how to apply it to yourself. So it's not even like, oh, trust that this will work for you. It's wait, see first and foremost, does this approach, does my way of speaking, do the tools that I share and the system that I teach, does it make a difference for you? And if it does, then you have me coaching you through it so that you can apply it uh, throughout your life in every aspect that comes up for you. So when we go back to that question of what can we trust? How do we know if we can trust someone? How do we know what will work for us? On the one hand, yes, we need to be careful. We do need to protect ourselves. We do need to make sure that we're not just, I'm a very gullible person. It probably might be where I'm from. I'm from Canada. We're often a little bit more gullible. I tend to have a very trusting nature, and at the same time, that's a good thing. And it can also mean that, you know, we do have to be careful, right? Who am I trusting? What am I listening to? What advice am I actually taking in, right? Not just like allowing anyone to tell me what to do. Also not we don't want to be scammed, right? As I said, there's so many things today trying to get you to buy their thing. You can't go on anywhere without getting an ad for something, right? Shop like a billionaire, get these things for free. Try my thing that's going to like just, give you instant results. Lose 20 pounds in 10 days and keep it off forever. Like that sounds enticing. That sounds nice. It's not possible, right? It's not possible. It's absolutely impossible to lose 20 pounds in 10 days and keep it off forever. I can promise you that. But sometimes these magic bullets just sound so enticing and they can convince you and make you so sure that, like, wow, this is what I need. But we want what the antidote, the third alternative, as I say, between like being totally gullible and totally just like totally open and, possibly get scammed versus not trusting, shutting ourselves off and saying, you know, being closed, which is going to not allow us to have any relationships, not allow us to connect, always have us doubt the people around us, keep us from being able to have any help or get the kind of results that we want, right? The answer between the two of them is looking for evidence of what we can trust, looking not just for the evidence that, not just looking for what sounds good, and also not just looking for evidence that we can't trust, because there'll always be ways that people could hurt us. There'll always be things that bother us. There'll always be the things that like are not perfect. And at the same time, if we're totally just like, just open to anything, then we can end up getting overly, we can get hurt, we can get scammed, we could end up with like a million courses and programs and products and clothes and weight loss pills and relationships that just hurt us, right? That don't give us what we want. What's the answer? What's the third alternative? Looking for evidence of what looking for evidence of what we can trust. Do you hear that? Looking for evidence of what can I trust? Who can I trust? Looking for evidence that things are safe, looking for actual evidence of it, right? Which means when it comes to people in your life, looking for evidence looking for evidence that we are loved, looking for evidence that people care for us, that our husbands want to make us happy, looking for evidence that he's a good guy, looking for evidence that our children love us, looking for evidence that we are loved by others, that we're doing a good job, looking for evidence of love and trust and safety, and also looking for evidence of looking for what actually makes a difference for us, not just what tells us is going to make a difference for us, what actually makes a difference for us. And I think that's a lot of times when you look at people talking about, let's say, specifically looking for support, looking for their programs, where can um, what can actually help you have a better relationship, lose the weight, be a better parent, like whatever it is you're looking for, what's actually going to give you those results, right? So look at the material, look at what they're sharing, look at what they're teaching. Is the teaching only speaking to what it is that you want? Or is it also giving you an experience like an understanding? Do you see it already making a difference for you? And now you want more. Now you want to go deeper. Now you want to go further. Does that resonate? I'll get to questions in a moment. So if this is resonating for you, and if you have been asking that question, and I'm sharing this with, just total, like wanting you to experience what it is that you want to experience. And yes, hoping that only if I've already given you an experience where, like, you see that these tools make a difference for you, if you already have evidence of it, if you've already experienced a shift. I know a woman sent me an email, like, she was in such a high on With All Your Heart. And then after With All Your Heart finished, she's like, yeah, after like a week, like the high went away. I'm already nervous again all the time. I'm already in a bad mood again all the time. I'm already not as looking for like the good anymore. I don't feel myself in as good of a place anymore. That's proof that these tools, these skills, these ideas make a difference. If you have that evidence and you are looking to go further, you're looking for more, you can go to channadeutsch.com/ready for connection. Channadeutsch, DEUTSCH.com/ready for connection. It's about another 23 and a half hours that you can still get the With All Your Heart deal, whether you were part of With All Your Heart or not, which is it's over $1,000 off, I believe, from the regular price. And it also includes great bonuses like the Absolutely Irresistible program and 4 one-on-one calls, plus some other things With All Your Heart for next year, VIP, and I'm always over giving. I'll give you. There's always more things that come, and we have a coaching call every week. You'll get 4 private calls. I'm here to support you so that you can go deeper and see practically how to apply. Now, here I have the question of what do you do if um, your husband is actually not telling the truth sometime. If he sometimes is lying, he often doesn't tell the truth. Look, it's a tricky topic. Um, the question and sometimes, like, the question is like, is he what kinds of things are being lied about, and how do those things come about? How do they happen? There is a reality that some people lie as a defense mechanism. They tell like those little white lies, right? As a defense mechanism. It's what they do when they're like, as a kid, is like scared of getting caught, quote unquote, scared of getting in trouble. They'll tell a little lie that they may not even really even be so conscious of. Like, it's just like so quick. It's like if you quickly try to please someone, or you quickly yell at somebody when you're getting upset, like, or you hide something, like it's a way of defending themselves. And so if that's happening, it may be that they struggle with that kind of thing. And we always want to be careful that we are compartmentalizing the issues that are happening and not making that the totality of how we're seeing our husbands, right? So if he's lying, he's not telling the truth about little things like you're giving the example of here. What is, like, to really get curious, does that mean like you can't trust him as a husband? You can't trust him as a person? Like, you can't rely on anything, or are these little isolated incidents that are happening, perhaps in situations where he may not be feeling safe for whatever reason? It may not be you that's not making him feel safe, but that may be happening. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not excusing it. We all do things that are not ideal when we are being triggered. All of us. That's right. We do the best we can to be more and more and more conscious of when we're being triggered. And this is something I talk a lot about in the program. I do a lot of coaching on is becoming more and more aware of when we're triggered and how we react when we're triggered so we can be more conscious of how we respond when we're triggered, right? So we can be in integrity even when we're being triggered, right? And so sometimes those things are going to happen and those things do not define the person. So that's what I would say even more. Look for evidence of when and how he can be trusted. And note that, when those things happen, like how are things being said, not to blame you but again to be aware of what might be happening in such a triggering situation. Here's someone saying, what if I grew up in dysfunction where there was no way I can trust? How can I build my trust to my husband when he is not being consistent and not following through with things he took responsibility for? I think it's very important to therefore be very mindful of these ideas, to really get coaching on how to work on your trust. And it's, trusting yourself, knowing that you are safe, looking for evidence that you're safe, because there will always be evidence, like I was saying before, that you can't trust him, right? Because nobody is 100% on, like, to their true to their word, right? We're all human, right? We could say we're going to do something and a million things could happen, right? You could I'm just trying to think of, like, little things that can happen, right? I'm gonna put my son to bed at 8, and I'm gonna sit with him for an hour until I have to come on Coffee and Connection, right? And then what happens? He comes home from a trip, and, I end up having a conversation with my daughter at that time, and then, oh, before he still has to take a shower, and before he showers, he has to use the bathroom, and then he goes to take a shower, and then my son comes home, and now my other son comes home, and now I need to make him some dinner quickly. And so then it becomes 8:30, 8:40, 8:45 before he's even in bed. Oh no, his bed's not set up, right? Now, does that mean I'm not a trustworthy person? Or is there a reality of life? Now, could I maybe have preempted, been on top of things a little bit more? Certain things, and certain things are just the reality that life happens. And we're human, we forget things come up, right? We're not ever dealing with isolated incidents. We're dealing with like all the people in our lives and all the things that are going on, right? And so being able to see, just as I was saying before, very important as you're to when you're looking to build up. First of all, it's like trust in yourself, right? Knowing that you can trust, and looking to be able to trust your husband when there is evidence that you can't trust him, because there'll always be. It's really, again, looking for the evidence, looking to see where you can trust him, looking to see where he does keep his word. And there also, what is very important is getting coaching on like really understanding how to interpret the things that are happening, right? Because it's like you said, your brain has been wired since you were young, as you're saying here, to believe that you can't trust. And so you're going to find evidence for that everywhere. That's how you're thinking. That's your limiting belief. I can't trust. And you have evidence for it. We don't have any limiting beliefs that are not evidence-based. Right? We have them because that's what we have evidence from when we were little. And so the idea here is to rewire your brain, which is right now in your blind spot, right? Even though there's what you're sharing here is it's amazing that you have this awareness. It's going to be really shifting the way you think so that you can actually see evidence of how much of what of seeing evidence of where you are safe and how you can trust, even in the imperfect reality of life. And if you'd like, you can send me an email. We can talk more about what this would look like for you. Okay. I hope that that's helpful. Again, I just wanted to really just take this opportunity to talk about this importance of trust, especially when we're in such a time that can feel unsteady, unsafe, like I don't know, right? Are we like the first, like for the thank God there's been a ceasefire with Iran, and so we could get some sleep again. But then it's like, can I sleep? Can't I sleep? Like I'm still finding it very hard to get into a deep sleep, right? Our brain becomes accustomed to it's very our brain becomes so used to a certain experience that it can be very difficult to shift into a different experience, right? And when we're used to feeling unsafe, right? As I said, like maybe right from the beginning when we first got married, where we were so like, what? This is marriage? This is my husband, right? And the reality is that there are Jewish sources that talk about, the Gemara says, that is the experience of marriage. Before you get married, there's a curtain in front of your eyes. You can't actually see your spouse for who they really are. You see the good in them. You see what Hashem wants you to see. That's going to allow you to actually get married. And once you stand under the chuppah, and we can talk about this from a spiritual perspective, an emotional perspective, intimacy perspective, once you stand under the chuppah, once you get married, the curtain goes up. And it takes a few days, a few weeks, a few months, for some people up to 2 years, for the veil to completely lift. And everyone at some point goes, this isn't who I married. This isn't what I thought I was getting myself into. That's normal. And yet, if you're not prepared for that, right, it can give such a feeling of, what wool was pulled over my eyes? Who lied to me? Who can I trust now? And knowing that that is not evidence that you can't trust. It is evidence of the reality of life and the reality that we are different people, right? To be able to start to make the shift into seeing who you are married to, how you can love and respect him, how you can build a healthy, happy marriage together, and to also know whether it's me or somebody else, to really get clarity. And I hope this helps you understand for yourself how to know who you can trust to help you in that process, whether it's a coach, a friend, a family member, that when the words that they say, the advice that they give, the tools that they share actually make a difference. They don't just sound good also. It doesn't just sound good, because there's plenty of stuff. I know I learned so many things that sounded good, but when I went to use it, it something about it didn't work. Or it worked up to a certain point until it became like, wow, this is actually creating a lot of resentment. Or you know what? This actually makes me feel not so good about myself, or this is actually creating a relationship that doesn't feel, either I'm feeling above him or I'm feeling like a victim. Something's not working. We want to look for the evidence of what does make a difference for us, right? What actually creates shifts, what actually is making a difference. And we may need more help with it. We may need to go deeper into it. That's that's how I offer the coaching program. If that's something that you're interested in, if it's something that you'd like to dive into, like I said, you can go to hannahdeutsch.com/ready for connection. If not now, then when it feels right for you, there is another, like I said, just under 24 hours to jump in and get started over the summer. It would be my pleasure to coach you, and I'm here to answer questions. You can send me emails. I'm happy to answer them. And I thank you for your messages, for your comments. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.